Good evening. Good evening. Get in here. Get comfortable. Bring your tea. Join me today. So greetings to all and welcome to the Saga Lovers. This is our Tell All Tuesday and I'm your host, Mademoiselle. Please hit the like button, subscribe for notification. Let's get on with our Tuesday stories. Get in. We're live on the tube. I'm gonna give it another second there, just checking. Yes. So I just wanted to play a little song just before we get going. Where is it?
La lumière danse dans ses yeux. Elle cache un secret envieux.
Just a little song before we get going.
Chaque matin un nouveau mystère. Mademoiselle vit sans frontières. Les rues murmurent des contes d'ombre. Elle marche comme un rêve sombre. Tous les jours un chapitre écrit. Quelle légende que le jour nuit. Quand Mademoiselle raconte la saga, les histoires que personne ne voit. Dans la nuit tu dévoileras les secrets cachés sous ta soie.
Let's go. Okay. Let me share my screen here and make sure to share the agenda. All right, let's go. So today is the 24th. Well, the 25th. Hey. Look at that. The 25th of February. Our first saga, we're going to go through Don Richard versus Sean Combs document and continue on the read. Number 2, Sister Jaguar Wright and the Maja community. Yes, girls, I'm behind you 100%. And you know what? I got receipts today for you all. So please, leave my sister alone. Let's go. And then our third saga, it's the Canada US update. Carney's Carnage is coming. It's for real. And then I have a little bit of read from Jim Morrison's book. Actually, it is called it's the Lost Writings of Jim Morrison's Poems and Diary of the Rock and Roll Legend, Wilderness Volume 1. And it is was written by the Wilderness Publication, Columbus B. Carson, Pearl M. Carson, Frank Luciandro, I believe, and Catherine. Here, I forgot her last name. Maybe I must have write that name. Catherine Lisiandro as well. Yeah, I fell on it a couple of days ago and I was like, oh, let me add a couple of pages of this. So let's go. Let's get out of there and our read. On the lawsuit. So please beware of the language and I will do my best. Here we go. Full screen mode. We were about here last time. Yes, right here. Yeah, here we go. So here's 4, right? Diddy, Dirty Money, Mrs. Richards' Experience, Mr. Combs, Gender-Based, Physical Violence, Criminal Acts, Sexual Assaults, Threats, and Intimidation. Here we go. So by approximately the fall of 2009, many of Ms. Richards' compositions had been recorded by other Bad Boy records artists. Due to the success of her composition, Miss Richard was invited to meet with a musical artist, Kalenna Harper, Miss Harper. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Combs, Miss Richard, and Miss Harper formed a new group, Diddy Dirty Money. His name is on everything. Something else. Initial recording for Diddy Dirty Money's album, Last Train to Paris, took place in Mr. Combs' home on the Honey Drive in Los Angeles, California. On the first day of recording, Miss Richard and Miss Harper arrived. Let me check here. I just want to keep on my comments, guys. I don't want to miss anything if anybody writes anything. So please come on in. All right. On the first day of recording, Miss Richard and Miss Harper arrived at Mr. Combs' home and waited in the kitchen, where Mr. Combs' girlfriend, Miss Ventura, Cassie, was frying eggs for him. Wow. Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs come down the stairs looking high on drugs, enter the kitchen, approach Miss Ventura, and scream, "I've been asking you for my shit. I can't stand you, bitch. You never do it right." Mr. Combs pushed Miss Ventura against the wall and choked her, then picked up the scalding hot pan of eggs and threw it at her, causing her to fall to the ground. I'm going to put this up a little bit. In a fetal position. Cursing and screaming, Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Frozen in shock and terror, Miss Richard heard glass shattering, crashing, and banging noises as Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Let me check this out. Yes, this. Yeah, okay. You can hear it now. It should be fine. Just making sure. Sorry, guys. I better double check this. Sometimes I don't know what's wrong with the sound. Yeah, okay. We're good. Wow. Noises as Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Miss Richards wanted to intervene and help Miss Ventura, but Miss Harper adamantly refused to interfere in Mr. Combs' relationship and physically led Miss Richard out the residence. Terrified and shaken, Miss Richard returned to her hotel where she was unable to sleep due to worrying about Miss Ventura and her own safety. The following day, Miss Richard received a call demanding that she return to Mr. Combs' residence to continue recording Mr. Combs' To continue recording, Mr. Combs brought Miss Richard and Miss Harper into the recording studio room at his studio. Mr. Combs brought Miss Richard and Miss Harper into the recording room at his studio, locked the door, dimmed the light, and gave each of them flowers. Mr. Combs went at length, stating, "This is normal. This was just a lover's argument where no one was hurt. This is what love is. I'm giving you an opportunity. If you want to make it, you will shut your mouth. If you say anything, there will be consequences." Mr. Combs further warned that people end up missing, being threatened, while locked for over 20 minutes in a small enclosed space with Mr. Combs. After observing Mr. Combs violently assault Miss Ventura the day before, Miss Richard was terrified and genuinely believed that Mr. Combs would follow through on his threats. In or around November 2009, after the Soul Train Award in Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Combs flew Miss Ventura and Miss Harper to his house in New York on his private jet for an after party. There were many well-known celebrities at the after party, and copious amount of illegal drugs were being openly consumed. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs had arranged for dozens of young women and girls, some of whom appeared to be underage, to be transported to the party. Then a woman arrived wearing little to no clothing and were given drugs and alcohol. Many of them appeared lethargic or passed out while Mr. Combs and his guests performed sexual acts on them. So I would say here, Miss Richard would be also a witness, another witness. Miss Richard believed that her presence at the party was a test to see whether Mr. Combs could trust her. Mr. Combs repeatedly said things like, "This is a buffet, enjoy yourself. This is what we do. This is how we party." Miss Richard felt shocked and horrified at the sight of Mr. Combs and his guest violating incapacitated young woman and implored Mr. Combs' personal assistant, Capricorn Clark, to allow her to leave. Miss Clark insisted that Miss Richard wait 15 minutes for Miss Clark to make sense. That is, to make Miss Richard exit less conspicuous as Mr. Combs would not notice that she had left. Knowing that she was not free to leave and had to wait for Miss Clark to help her orchestrate her retreat, Miss Richard experienced feeling of panic and being trapped against her will. Oh, hell yeah, you were. By your boss, your employer. Mr. Combs regularly placed Miss Richard in similar situations with no means to escape. At Mr. Combs' drug-fueled party, his guests included Miss Richard, were required to surrender their phone upon entry. Mr. Combs kept the doors locked and guarded by security personnel, making it impossible for Miss Richard to leave without alerting Mr. Combs that she had done so. Mr. Combs hired police officers to attend his parties, sending a clear message to guests that his influence extended to the law enforcement officers and creating a climate of fear and tacit, okay, tacit, warning and reporting him to the authority would be both unacceptable and futile. I gotta look up that word. I'm French. One of many occasions, Mr. Combs had parties at his Miami, Florida residence that lasted for several days. At one of his parties, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs openly stating that he had arranged for a busload of young exotic girls such as mixed black and Asian, Indonesian, and albinos. Once again, Miss Richard observed inebriated young girls being sexually, it is young girls, not women, being sexually violated by Mr. Combs and his guests. I hope the guys in jail are listening to this. This is wrong. In the state of panic and terror, again, it's alleged, Miss Richard fled to the bedroom of Mr. Combs, had insisted she stay in and barricaded the door shut with furnitures. Wow. Mr. Combs openly assaulted Miss Ventura in front of Miss Richard and other witnesses on multiple occasions. On one occasion, in and around the fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money was in New York preparing to perform a festival. Inside their vehicle, Mr. Combs grabbed Miss Ventura's neck, pulled her out of the van onto the grass, and pinned her down, her head down, choking her while yelling, "You're gonna get fucked up today." Oh, Lord. I guess it was against her wills. Anybody, there's a witness to that. People thinking she wanted to, she had to, forced to, drugged into, it didn't matter. Allegedly again, but he still paid her. This incident took place in the backstage area just outside the festival and was entirely visible to passerby. In other instances, in and around early 2010, Mr. Combs punched Miss Ventura in the face in the bathroom of a party in Los Angeles. Frequently, when Miss Ventura attempted to voice an opinion or stand up to Mr. Combs, he would strike her and wrap his hand around her throat and choke her. Sicko. Allegedly sicko. On the first several occasions that they observed Mr. Combs assault Miss Ventura, Miss Richard, and on the first several occasions that they observed Mr. Combs assault Miss Ventura, Miss Richard and Miss Harper spoke with Miss Ventura to support and encourage Miss Ventura in escaping her abusive relationship with Mr. Combs. Every time that Miss Richard and Miss Harper tried to intervene, Mr. Combs learned of the conversation and became irate. Mr. Combs screamed at the woman, "Y'all bitches don't get in my relationship. Don't tell my bitch, Miss Ventura, what she needs to be doing." Oh, because you know what she needs to be doing. It's that. Just make money and shut the fuck up. I end artist. Did he end artist? I guess he admits it there. I shelve career. Maybe he did it there, allegedly. You could be missing. Oh, threats. And you bitches want to die today? Among other threats. This man's language is disgusting. Interscope record enabled Mr. Combs' gender motivation violence. Allegedly, all of this in and around 2009 or early 2010, Bad Boys Entertainment entered an agreement in Interscope, Jeff and A&M Records Interscope. Upon information and belief, Bad Boys was paid $50 million in exchange for Bad Boys' future release being distributed through Interscope. In so doing, Mr. Combs intended to capitalize on Interscope significant resources and enhance the promotion and sales of Bad Boys releases, including Diddy Dirty Money's upcoming album, which he was part of. In the weeks and months leading up to the Bad Boy Interscope deal, Mr. Combs had frequent meetings with producer and then CEO of Interscope Recording, Jimmy Iovine. On one such occasion, Combs hosted a dinner at a West Hollywood, California restaurant, which Miss Richard and Miss Harper were required to attend. Among the guests at the dinner were celebrity like Neo and Usher, as well as Mr. Iovine. At the dinner, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura had an argument in front of the dinner guests, and Mr. Combs hissed at Miss Ventura in a screaming whisper and forcefully punched her in the stomach, causing her to double over in visible pain, crying. Miss Clark escorted Miss Ventura out of the restaurant. Mr. Combs remained and continued socializing with the dinner guests. At this point, Interscope Records clearly had actual knowledge that Combs was dangerous around females, and Combs was willing to brazenly batter a female in public. Oh, fuck yeah. Even after Mr. Iovine watched Mr. Combs commit a violent assault in front of numerous high-profile witnesses, the Bad Boy Interscope deal took place and remained in effect, providing Mr. Combs with immense financial rewards and enabling him to commit further acts of violence without fear of repercussions. Watching Mr. Combs openly assault Miss Ventura in front of Miss Iovine and the various celebrities, and observing that other powerful music industries representatives were complicit in Mr. Combs' behavior, amplified Miss Richard's fear that Mr. Combs could one day harm her and that his action would be accepted and normalized by everyone surrounding him. As part of the agreement between Bad Boys and Interscope heavily promoted Diddy Dirty Money, Last Train to Paris album. Mr. Iovine had presented Mr. Combs with a demo of Coming Home for him to produce. Yeah, I hope his home is jail now. A song that would become a multi-platinum hit. Mr. Iovine was encouraging Mr. Combs to develop a new sound for the album, into which Interscope was investing significant resources. Miss Richard, Miss Harper, and Miss Ventura all provided a vocal performance for this project. Released in November 2010, the album Last Train to Paris became a Diddy Dirty Money's most commercial successful project, providing vast financial rewards to both Interscope and Mr. Combs. Well, the credit both Interscope Records and Bad Boy Records for that album. Well, Diddy Dirty Money, Mr. Combs subjects Miss Richard to labor, trafficking, and oppressive working condition. In around the fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money began recording the song Love Comes Down, Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs continued to use drugs that caused him to remain awake for prolonged periods of time. When he was awake, he would demand Miss Richard and Miss Harper, record in the studio, where they would spend 3 to 4 consecutive days recording without a break to eat or sleep. Mr. Combs required Miss Richard and Miss Harper to remain at his homes continuously, denying the opportunity to return to their hotel room for breaks. The degree of control Mr. Combs exercised over Miss Richard's daily life and basic needs exacerbated. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit tongue-tied today. The significant power imbalance and threatening atmosphere that ensured Miss Richard's compliance with his demand. Exacerbated. Yes, guys, let's keep going. Mr. Combs regularly left the studio and required Miss Richard and Miss Harper to stay and write verses to songs. Occasionally, Miss Richard tried to leave to get something to eat or to go to her hotel. Whenever Miss Richard tried to leave, Mr. Combs would call and demand, "Where the fuck are you?" And "We have an album to make." Mr. Combs frequently made threats, especially if they asked for food or rest, stating, "You're a bitch. I don't want to see your fucking face. I make and go missing." Oh my God. "And I make things go away." Sorry for the language, guys. Each time Miss Richard returned to the studio immediately, believing Mr. Combs was capable of following through with his threats. Mr. Combs criticized Miss Richard for being too skinny, yet denied her request for food and demanded that she drink only peanut butter shakes. Mr. Combs had full meals prepared by a chef and ate them in front of Miss Richard and Miss Harper, never offering them food. Yeah, he had a chef, and yet he had Cassie doing eggs. Miss Richard and Miss Harper begged for food. Just taking a little sip of tea. Begged for food and rest breaks. But Mr. Combs refused, making statement that a such absolute fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. And this is what it takes to be great. Mr. Combs' responses underscored the threat he posed and heightened Miss Richard's concern for her safety and well-being. As well, Miss Richard continued to work nonstop, transitioning between the studio rehearsals, workouts, and back to the studio. She became severely dehydrated and experienced chronic stomach cramp from being undernourished and excessively thin. On the numerous occasions that she told Mr. Combs that she was not feeling well, he called her lazy and dismissed her health concerns, instilling in her further apprehensions of communicating her needs. In and around the summer of 2010, Miss Richard experienced abdominal pain, swelling glands, and a fever. She was hospitalized and diagnosed with arthralgia, joint pain due to overuse, sprains, tendonitis, and injections. Joint pains due to overuse. Oh my God, so much practice. anemia, and a low white blood cell count. Wow, that was dangerous. A low white blood cell count. I'm very sorry, Miss Richard. Okay, Miss Richard presented Mr. Combs with her medical record, specifying that she needed to emphasize eating well, being adequately hydrated, and getting adequate rest. But Mr. Combs ordered her to report to the studio the next day for another multi-day recording session. Mr. Combs' blatant disregard for her health and well-being cemented Miss Richards' fear of his authority and control over her career and health. Miss Richard continued to witness Mr. Combs' abuse towards Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura often wore sunglasses and makeup in an attempt to hide visible injuries. These incidents further solidified Miss Richards' fear of Mr. Combs, as they were a constant reminder of all the physical danger she potentially could and eventually would face. Mr. Combs often exhibited uncontrollable anger during recording sessions, throwing objects like albums, laptops, and food against the wall or at individuals. Mr. Combs frequently flew into frenzy, unpredictable rage. Miss Richard feared making any misstep that could direct his anger toward her. However, her fears went beyond her immediate physical safety because she had witnessed Mr. Combs' violent nature, a side of Mr. Combs that the world had not yet seen. Open your eyes. She feared that falling out of Mr. Combs' good grace, or worse, standing up to him or speaking out against him, could result in serious harm to her. Miss Richard frequently thought about Mr. Combs' threat about making people go missing and feared taking any action that could label her as a target. Despite Mr. Combs' violence threats and misogyny, Diddy Dirty Money experienced significant sales of records, selling 2 million copies of one single and 500,000 other, which is 500,000, of another in the US. And in Australia, 5 million single copies. Miss Richard, unpaid wages and royalty are estimated at 1.2 million. Miss Richard's unpaid touring wages are estimated at over 350,000 for touring dates within the states, the United States alone. Forget international. Oops, sorry. So still rock Diddy beats and non-payment. Let me have a little sip of tea. In or around the summer of 2009, Miss Richard and Miss Harper were required by Mr. Combs to perform as part of Diddy Dirty Money, and attend numerous promotional events, including late or overnight parties, all of which were under contract between Mr. Combs and Syrup Vodka. Or between Mr. Combs and Diddy Beats, pursuant to the Bad Boy Interscope, a record deal. Oof. Syrup and the vodka with some of the parties. Miss Richard was never compensated for the extra time she spent fulfilling Mr. Combs' promotional contracts, including the Ciroc and the Diddy Beat Company. Beats Company. Mr. Combs was paid approximately $250 per Ciroc appearance. Mr. Combs did not compensate Miss Richard or Miss Harper for these appearances, other than just a $5,000 each and a handful of occasions on a handful of occasions. Yes, Mr. Combs' ongoing explanation for withholding compensation was that their appearance was a requirement for their tour. Additionally, Miss Richard was required to appear and to promote Diddy Beat through parties, through yeah, album songs and videos. Over time, Mr. Combs was paid $6.25 million for 25 Ciroc show that Miss Richard was required to attend. Oh, 6 million and a quarter. Well, following each show, Miss Richard and Miss Harper approached Mr. Combs to inquire about their insufficient and sporadic payment. Yeah. Mr. Combs routinely responded with statements such as, "You bitches aren't grateful and you don't want this." Miss Richard estimates lost from Ciroc Company promotion totaling to at least $1,562,500. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs received an advance on Diddy Beat, for which Miss Richard received no compensation. That's a lot of money going on here. It's almost $8 million there. Mr. Combs sexual harasses and assaults Miss Richards between approximately 2009 and 2011 throughout Diddy Dirty Money's recording process, rehearsals, and performances. Mr. Combs repeatedly ordered Miss Richard to strip down to her underwears. He frequently referred to her as a bitch or a whore to make. What? This guy's too much. And made demeaning remarks about her body, alternatingly calling her lazy, fat, ugly, and skinny, particularly in front of his friends, producers, and bodyguards. Show off. Such a girl. He's the bitch. Anyways, sorry guys. My bad. So this is all allegedly. Let's keep at it. Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Miss Richards. Miss Richard wearing only his underwears. Of course, despite Miss Richards' protest and a repeated request for him to put on clothing. In response, Mr. Combs called her a bitch and a whore and reminded her that she should be grateful for the opportunity to be there and to look at his ugly face and his ugly ass. Sorry, guys. Often while they were recording in the studio, Mr. Combs would hold parties where he would invite young men and women who were often scantily dressed and appeared underage, to use drugs and engage in sex acts. Miss Richards observed Mr. Combs and his colleagues kissing, groping, and inappropriately touching the young women. Upon information and belief, the participation often left the Upon information and belief, the participants often left the immediate area to have sex and returned shortly thereafter. On numerous occasions between approximately 2009 and 11, under the guise of preparing the performances, Mr. Combs would intrude into Miss Richards' changing room at Daddy's house unannounced while Miss Richard was undressed. Even though a female stylist was present and assisting Miss Richard with her wardrobe, Mr. Combs would grope Miss Richards' body, including her bare buttocks and her chest area near her breast. With no legitimate purpose and without Miss Richards' consent, Mr. Combs caressed her buttocks to show the stylist where he wanted her high waist panties positioned and attempted to touch her breast, claiming to show the stylist where he wanted her bra strap to go. Yeah, right. Pervert. Might as well get a lingerie line while you're at it. Creep. When Mr. Combs would enter the changing room, Miss Richard would cover her chest with her hands to prevent Mr. Combs from seeing or touching her breast. When Mr. Combs would touch her body, Miss Richard would attempt to swat his hands away and state, "Don't touch me." Get it? Don't touch me. Mr. Combs frequently smacked Miss Richards' bare butt. I'm not used to buttocks, but buttocks, and often commented on her body, noting that although she was too skinny, she had an ass. Ignoring her visible and communicating discomfort, Mr. Combs persisted and continued to intrude when Miss Richard was in the dressing room, continuing to touch her butt and breasts area under the guise of showing the stylist what to do, and continued to smack her butt without her consent. Like, he needs to smack her butt for that, you weirdo. Nice try. Keep trying, I guess. In and around October 2010, that Diddy dirty, stupid freaking recording. Anyways, performed in Glasgow, Scotland, where Mr. Combs engaged in over sexual advance toward Miss Richard. On numerous occasions, when Miss Richard exited the dressing room, fully styled, Mr. Combs looked at her accordingly and smacked her butt while making comments such as, "You're looking good. Okay, Don. Okay, Don. I see what it is," in a flirtatious tone. Each time, Miss Richard moved away and asked him not to touch her, but Mr. Combs disregarded her protests. Such a faker. Oh, sorry, guys. Every time I read this stuff, I feel like I gotta go wash. It's too much, too nasty and dirty, but this needs to be read, and people need to know what these lawsuits are entailing or alleging. And it's different from the government indictment and the other superseding indictment. This is a personal civil lawsuit. But that's stuff that we read in the other lawsuits and from other people, same behaviors. All right. On their last night in Glasgow, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs and several other males gang banging Mr. Combs' female assistant at the I'm not sure if I'm reading that. On their last night in Glasgow, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs and several other male gang banging Mr. Combs' female assistant at the hotel pool Miss Richard immediately left and went to her hotel room. I don't know. It's just, I guess, a bunch of males. Yeah. On their flight back to the United States the next day, Miss Richard asked Mr. Combs where his assistant was. Mr. Combs replied, I don't give a fuck where that bitch is. Miss Richard later learned that Mr. Combs had taken his assistant's passport with him to the United States, leaving the assistant stranded in the United Kingdom. Ooh, in Glasgow, Miss Harper confided in Miss Richard that her husband and manager Tony Vicks, Mr. Vick, was abusive after an especially severe assault. She confided in Miss Richard that she wanted to leave Mr. Vick, and Miss Richard helped her to plan the exit from the relationship. However, Miss Harper and Mr. Vick reconciled. And both Mr. Combs and Mr. Vick, who had a close relationship, learned Miss Richard's role in helping Miss Harper. Both Mr. Combs and Miss Richard became noticeably distrustful of Miss Richard, which exacerbated her fears of harms and reprisal. When Mr. Combs would require his Diddy Dirty Money bandmates to stay at his residence in Miami, Miss Richard would barricade herself inside her room at night, placing heavy furniture against the door because she feared being harmed in her sleep. In and around December 2010, Miss Richard, Miss Harper, and Miss Ventura were in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home when Mr. Combs stated, I want to give you fake titties for Christmas. Mr. Combs reached out and cupped Miss Richard's breasts without her permission and stated, You're I think, AD? Miss Richard recoiled in shock and left the room. Throughout the above-mentioned time, when Miss Richard and Mr. Combs advances, Mr. Combs retaliated by denying, throughout the above-mentioned time period when Miss Richard resisted Mr. Combs' advances, Mr. Combs retaliated by denying her singing parts in songs, removing her from songs, refusing to follow her to sing in performances, refusing to allow her to sing in performances, and turning her microphone off during performances. The more Miss Richard rebuffed his advances, the more Mr. Combs' retaliatory behavior increased. Mr. Combs assault and falsely imprisoned Miss Richard. In and around December 2010, Diddy Dirty Money was preparing for an upcoming performance on Saturday Night Live, SNL. As usual, rehearsal lasted for days without opportunity to eat or rest, and the rehearsal schedule was unpredictable. After waiting all day for Mr. Combs to call or send a car, Miss Richard received a phone call from Mr. Combs demanding, Where the fuck are you bitches? You bitches don't want this. Y'all don't deserve to have someone pick you up. Get a cab. Miss Richard and Miss Harper immediately took a cab to the SIR studio at 520 West 25th Street, New York, anxious because Mr. Combs sounded enraged. Upon the arrival at the SIR studios, or whatever, Mr. Combs and Harvey Pierre were waiting for them in the lobby. Mr. Combs screamed obscenities at them. Where the fuck were you bitches? You bitches don't want to win. You don't want this. I'm so tired of y'all. Mr. Combe noticed that the people in the lobby were reacting to Mr. Combe's triad. Embarrassed, Miss Richard and asked Mr. Combs to stop swearing and calling them bitches in front of everyone. Good girl. Put him on the spot. For Mr. Combs, Mr. Combs' facial expression shifted as he stepped toward Miss Richard, raised his arm, and swung his fist toward her face. Believing that Mr. Combs was going to hit her, Miss Richard braced for the impact. Before Mr. Combs could strike her, Mr. Combs' bodyguard grabbed her, escorted her out of the studio, and forced her into a bad boy record Bentley that was parked outside. Miss Harper ran after Miss Richard, and Mr. Combs' bodyguard closed and locked the Bentley door without both women inside. With both women inside. So, inside the vehicle, Miss Richard realized there were no interior door handle and that they were locked inside with no way to escape. Miss Richard's belongings were in the studio, but she was able to call her father from Miss Harper's cell phone. Miss Richards relayed to her father what had happened and that she needed help and feared that she would go missing. A moment later, Mr. Combs' bodyguard removed only Miss Harper from the Bentley, leaving Miss Richards locked in the car alone for over 2 hours. Miss Richard screamed loudly as she could, but no one responded. It was late. It was late evening in the wintertime. Give me one sec. Give me a sec, guys. Let me just put on a little background, a little melody. I need to go get something. Let me see here. Give me one sec. Okay. I don't know why I feel like my ears are closed. Okay. This is where we were. So Miss Richard screamed as loud as she could, but no one responded. It was late evening in the winter. The windows were heavily tinted and the interior of the car was dark, except for faint interior lights. Miss Richards' belongings and winter coat were in the studio while the ignition was off and there was no heat. With Mr. Combs' prior threats and violence running through her mind, Miss Richard felt sheer panic, terror, and feeling of claustrophobia at being locked in a small, dark, enclosed space with no way to communicate or call for help. She began to feel cold and fear for her life, not knowing or when or if she would be released. Miss Richard Miss Richards' father drove to New York from Baltimore and arrived at the studio approximately 2 hours later. Only after her father arrived and demanded to see her did Mr. Pierre order Mr. Combs' bodyguard to release Miss Richard from the vehicle. Mr. Pierre ushered Miss Richard father between several rooms at Sir's studio, where he waited for approximately 2 hours before being able to confront Mr. Combs. Once Miss Richard's father expressed that he intended to call the police, Mr. Combs warned him to think about your family and think about your daughter's career. Her father appeared visibly frightened by Mr. Combs' threat, which in turn made Miss Richard feel terrified for herself and her family's safety. The night Diddy Dirty Money performed on SNL, Mr. Combs subsequently called Miss Richards, complimented her performance, and concluded with a threat: "You don't call your dad unless you're in the hospital." Alrighty, time is it? Okay, we're gonna take a break for this, and we'll continue on next week. All right, so let's take a break. So, one saga over, the second saga is on, and I'm your host, Mademoiselle. Here today, we got the receipts for Jaggy, for the Maja community, for the Make America Jag Again. Oh, I got receipts. People want to trash talk. People want to say stuff are fake rewards. People are disgusting out there. Let me tell you something. I have the receipt right here. And I'm going to show you that you do not mess around with Jaguar Wright. Whatever these people get pictures from, I got you. I got you. Nobody knows what's going on. She wasn't just anywhere. Oops, sorry guys. I don't know what happened, but I was trying to go to the link here. And I opened my own channel. Yeah, there she comes. Oh, there she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up, she says. Ha 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 ha. Let's go. America's future. Let's go. Open. Okay, let me get here and share the screen with you guys. I got the receipts. Our sister is not a liar. Our sister is pure. Our sister is true. Our sister is a fighter. She's a warrior. Jag is the Maja of the music industry. She is not stoppable. Be careful. She has Cash Patel on speed dial. Nobody understands what's going on. So here's the gallery of the event that happened in Mar-a-Lago, guys. Okay, let's go. Dismounts. Here we are. They're celebrating America's exceptionalism. February 18th. This is where she was. What do we see here? Mr. Kick-Ass, Mike Tyson, Ted Newton. Oh my God, Russell. Oh my God. Here, General Flynn, guys. General Flynn is right there. These people have received specific awards for their bravery, their dedication. It was the event in Mar-a-Lago. Don't mess around. Right? This is where she was. Another press. The welcome committee and their kids. Wow. Of course. It's not just anybody guarding that place. A lot. Look at that. I recognize a lot of these people's faces, but unfortunately, I am not the greatest with names. But we're going to get at our sister soon. Look at this. Event was organized to recognize people's bravery in America, for America's freedom, right? This is where Jaguar Wright was. Here's the guys from Fox 5, and I guess that must be his daughter and maybe his wife, but I'm not sure. Right? This is where Jack was. I know he's a senator, if I'm not mistaken. Or he is special office. I forget now. But let's get down here. We're getting to Jack. Let's go check out Mike Tyson. Hold on. Look at this Russell. Mr. Fancy. Look at that. Mike Tyson as well did receive a type of a reward, if I'm not mistaken. Try to go and see if I can find some more. But, I mean, pictures are everything today. And this is the round table where they were. Ted Nugent, Mary O'Neill. Look at that. General Flynn, Russell Brand, and Mike Tyson. Well. Let's see. We're getting a Jaguar. Calm down. We're getting there. Look at this. We're getting there. It's one part of the event. Right? Look at that. Re-elect that. I'm trying to, let me see if I could see what it said, the hat. Oh, re-elect that. Oh, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's cute, you guys. You guys did bad words. Hi. I guess Trump came and say hi to them for sure. There's definitely not an invitation. It's just close on his property. Look at General Flynn looking amazing. And this man as well, he is actually, his job was reinstated and he was fired during the Biden administration. And I believe this is General Flynn's wife. But I don't recognize the other lady. But be careful. We're getting close to my sister Jag. Jag and Maggie. Maggie, oh, they've been dismantling all the drama and all the lies. You good girl. Ça passe. Maggie, the Black Owl, and even with Sean Atwood, I mean, kudos to you guys. I am right with you. Just another one piling up, guys. We're not gonna let this happen. We are on top of it. I guess this was another medal or award that they were giving to this lady. And the Fox guy and the Pipes guys. Oh, here's, be careful. Defender of Freedom Award. Look at that. There's one. You ready? Go. Nice pause. Here. Another one. Oh, boy. Look at that. The defenders. These are the defenders of freedom and of America. Here we are. Oh, there you go. That's their name in the center. Ted Nugent. Oh, boy. Look at that. And yes, this is General Flynn's wife, if I'm not mistaken. Please, I hope I'm not wrong. It's a familiar face there, too. Here we got coming. Whoa, there she is. Oh. Jaguar Wright and Liz. And let me tell you, I was able to catch them on that day when she said that she was going to Mar-a-Lago with Liz. And I was so happy because I knew something was brewing. That secret that you can tell us. That's what it was, Jack. I am paying attention. And sister, keep at it and spread the word. And people, if they don't understand how you say things and how you code things, just because you want to go through the algorithms and say what needs to be said, just so you know, we understand you. Maggie does, all the ladies and the young mans out there and the old ones and Sean and I guess everybody. Murph. What can I say? You are on it. Bringing awareness, and the music industry is not a nice place. And I came to find out that General Flynn, I believe, his wife's son was caught in the industry as well and ended up in the bad hands. Had to be helped out of it. So what does it say? Anybody can be taken in. Any kid, any person. Let's go. There she is. Our sister Jaguar, the Defender of Freedom Award with General Flynn. This is no joke. Not only she got Cash Patel, she could reach out to Elon. She can reach out to General Flynn. And be careful. Some of y'all might want to end up in Gitmo. Let me tell you, the rule of law is here. So, Jag, I am still celebrating for you. I don't care if we have to do it every day of the year. If I have to do it every Tuesday, I'll do it. I'll celebrate and piss off everybody because you deserve this. Congratulations. I want nothing but the best for you. Everything you've done, I hope you know nothing was in vain. And at the end of the day, only you could have done it. That's why it's you and it's nobody else. And that's why people are jealous. People don't like to see people doing good and being recognized for good. You didn't have to, what can I say, prostitute yourself for the industry. Look at you. You don't need none of that. You don't need nobody. Amen. Now, I mean, you're your own producer. You could be your own everything. And I'm going to keep following with what's going on. And I wanted to say, stop the lies, because here's evidence of the nights with her peers receiving these awards. You see, everybody got these awards, all 3 of them. And you can see she is very, very tight and holding it. And you can see, oh my God, if those lips would open, that smile will kill the whole room. You know what, Jag? You're a beautiful woman. And maybe you can come and say hi to me one day. And then we could talk about anything you want to talk. I just want to say you're more than welcome here. You have a home here. You have a sister here. I'm in Toronto. And I'm not far from Maggie. Maggie's sa passé girlfriend. I'm going to say keep kicking asses. Yell at them. And like she says, imbécile heureux. There's a lot of that, basically. There are little happy imbeciles. And in French, we say that. Imbécile heureux. That's how we call happy idiots, because they're idiots and they're happy about it. And it's terrible. Like, so, Jaguar, you have an army. Let me tell you. With me, you have an army. You have another soldier. Girl, we got you. And wish you all the best. And we want to hear you sing and keep singing in those lives. It's amazing. I'm not too much into the drama and then the stories, like the details, but I'm listening to the most. It seems like I get the most important stuff. I know what you're doing, and I know that if you could have done more, you would have done more, but you've done more than enough, and you already given your recounting stories, sharing the events, the feelings, what you've witnessed, what actually happened to you. I am sorry, and I am sorry, and it is wrong, and nothing should happen to nobody. No women should be taken advantage of or shown any type of wrongdoing physically. Not, all I'm gonna say, girl, I'm happy you are here with us. I am happy you survived. I am happy you are glowing. I am happy that you are getting stronger every day. I am happy that you are getting your recognition every day. And I'm right behind you. So with that, what else did I want to say? Sean, you got to do something. You guys call me. We got to do a community, all of us together, and, share the stories. Listen, I don't want to be targeted, but I'm going to keep you guys posted if I do get targeted. So far, I'm a quiet little one here. Okay. So yes, so she got one of the most prestigious awards out there. This is from Generals. There's no joke. Award from the Oscar shows. Screw your stars. Nobody cares about your dirty stars in the streets that don't bring nothing to people's life. I want you to know that you are recognized, and we want to hear about your life story. We need some books, some volumes. I mean, young girls need to know about your story. You're a role model for what to expect around certain types of people. You know, some people don't know sometimes how people can be around. And we should share some of these experiences together. With that, let's get on and see what other pictures here. What else? Ha ha ha. Oh, the ladies, the ladies. And another defender. Haha. When Mike Tyson gets that award, what does it say, guys? These guys had a cause, a purpose in life, and they were giving an award. Kudos. Oh, beautiful painting. There you go. Ted's. Here's the gangs. Happy guys, great patriots. With that, we are done for our second saga. What else did I wanted to share? Oh, yes. Let's see. My word. Here. All right. I just wanted to check on this with you guys. Let's check here. Da-da-da. You know what we're going to do? We're going to cancel that. By the way, I wanted to share this with you. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Where is that? My bad. Okay. There it is. This was interesting. This lady was pardoned back in 2018. We're going to check this out. Yeah. Okay. Sharing screen here. Sharing screen. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to share the sound. Sharing screen. Here. Okay. Yes. I just want to share this little lady. Her name is Alice Mary Johnson. She was just appointed as the pardon czar by President Trump. She basically was on a life sentence for a non-violent drug offense back in 1994. Okay, and they charged her, and she was there for 20 years. So basically, Kim Kardashian advocated, and a bunch of other influential voices, and they try to help her with the with a sort of a bipartisan support. They did what Trump was called the First Step Act. Okay, it's an act of clemency on racial injustice and second chance hiring practice, basically. So she was in jail for 22 years. She got pardoned, and now she has been appointed as a pardon czar. She's going to help other inmates get pardons. So check it out. And yes, let's go.
Decades in prison is living a life she says she never could have imagined. Alice Johnson was pardoned by President Trump back in 2020, and since being released from prison, her work to help others in similar situations, it's been unwavering. Now she's got a role on the president's staff as a pardon czar. She sat down with Sidney Gray before church this morning to talk faith, her new position with the Trump administration, and moving the Mid-South forward.
A moment of thanks and reflection while sitting in the pews of Brown Baptist for Alice Johnson following her trip to the White House over the weekend.
To return back and be able to make a difference in the lives of others, to help restore communities, it's surreal, but it's really God does things so you will know that only He did it.
Johnson says life feels full circle after being named pardon czar for the Trump administration.
To go from being the daughter of former sharecroppers to now being an advisor to the President of the United States of America. Who could do that but God?
Bravo.
She spent more than 2 decades in prison for drug-related charges in the 90s. In 2018, she was released from prison after her sentence was commuted. She received a full pardon from President Trump in 2020 and then got right to work.
I helped many, many people gain their freedom, almost 50. I submitted over 100 clemency petitions, and I worked nonstop.
So when she visited Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks ago and Mr. Trump was there, she says,
faith has coincided now with purpose.
Johnson says during Trump's previous administration,
Amen.
She took every opportunity to talk with him about the people she was advocating for.
I advocated for them right in the Oval Office. It wasn't me sending him a list. He wanted me to come and meet with him and talk to him. Even when we was on Air Force One, I flown on Air Force One with him. And while on Air Force One, he told his wife, Melania, he said, Alice just convinced me to set 5 people free. Can you believe that?
She also says it's equally important those same people are being set up for success post-release.
I know firsthand of solutions that we need. It's very easy to talk about people when you haven't walked in their shoes and you have a theory about what works. Well, I've spent 22 years.
Johnson also acknowledges the polarization of the current administration, but had this to say.
What do you care about? Do you care about this country? Do you care about your communities? Do you care about your families? The Word of God tells us to pray for those who are in authority. A house divided against itself cannot stand, and neither can a nation.
Wow, look at that. Oh, amen to Mr. President Donald Trump. So this was a nice little story I just wanted to share. I mean, look at this lady. She was actually caught on cocaine and 22 years in jail. She got a pardon. I mean, she didn't kill anybody. She didn't harm. She didn't cause any thing to nobody really. But yeah, kind of. So now she's the border czar, and definitely not racist, guys. Oh boy, stop it. This was come on. Pay attention. Pay attention, guys. Next, what do we got? Wanted to check on Exa. So let's check on X. See, we don't got no much updates. It's always been the same chaos here. Tariff is paused. Oh, it's paused. Oh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. I mean, nobody's doing anything yet. We're still waiting. The prorogations update. There hasn't been much, but we're waiting. Right. So let's see. Elon always finding money. Oh boy, you got a bunch of little nerds dissecting the algorithm, creating all kinds of like finding things. Or like, oh my god. Now I need to move to the States because I want to live till 300 years old. Jeez. That's so funny. Elon Musk has lost 52 billion worth. Yeah, whatever. Let's see. Miller maintained that none of the massive increases in immigration was his government's fault, placing the blame instead on college, provincial government, and other. Of course. Pass the buck, Hugh. What do we got here? There's a bill. What do we got? Trump said he will offer. What? What is he going to offer? Gold cards for 5 million path to citizenship, replacing investors' visa. Gold cards. Trump said he will offer gold cards for 5 million path to citizenship. Interesting. He always has some funny ways of saying things. Congress and the courts have eroded the president's authority over his own branches. Trump is trying to claw it back, right? Yeah. Carnies couldn't answer what's a week worth of grocery cost for a family of 4. Watch for yourself. So that was in French. He was asking them about how much it would cost for a grocery. They're all 250, 200. Like, they're like, yeah, I do it. I find ways to cut cost. Carney is still wondering. I don't know, man. I just like whatever the hell, man, guys. I don't worry about that stuff. Let's go. What else do we have here? Of course, he didn't answer. He skipped it. Oh, there's been a fire discharge on Young and Shepherd. Reports a vehicle shot. No injury. Police are on the scene. Well, we don't live down there, so we good. What do we got here? Rubio required leadership UN Council is directed towards peace in Ukraine. Russia was an important step. Yeah, get on with this, guys. First Nation files charter challenge over RCMP refusal to enforce bylaw. What do we got? What do we got? Not much here. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, we still have no update. Hasn't been much. Oh, Alberta. Okay, yesterday, Alberta Premier Smith announced that the province will build a voluntary care center for people for people with severe drug addiction. Okay. Okay, I guess there's not much for that. All right, not much. We're good. I mean, we gotta wait for our elections, right? Everybody's just scrambling up there, but to be honest, nobody's doing much until they do their internal election, and then once the carney gets in, it will be a carnage for him, and then from maybe before the carnage, we'll find out if the prorogation was illegal or legal. Like everything Trudeau does is illegal, but it always takes an investigation, ongoing investigation. In the next 4 years, we're going to find out that one was illegal and it gets tossed. But again, we'll find out in due time. In the meantime, it is sad because the government is in the limbo, and they put themselves in the limbo, and they keep shooting themselves in the freaking mouth and in the face and in the eye and in the ear. And I think they keep missing their heart, but eventually they'll have to get it down there too. So we'll wait for the last blow when they shoot themselves in the heart, like it's ridiculous, not literally, but and just like until they destroy themselves little by little. I don't see any comeback for them anyways. I mean, people are just realizing how it has been horrendous that they were actually bamboozled by an actor. So with that, sorry, but no sorry, Trudeau. You're fake. You're just an actor. No, maybe you need to find a nice role like you can go and play for real, maybe your life story as the president of Canada. Try to go play yourself if they hire you. With that, all I wanted to say is good night. Sweet dreams. We'll see you next week. Same tube time, same tube channel. And I thank you for hanging with me. It was a lovely, lovely Tuesday. So, signing out, your host, Madam Wazelle.
La lumière danse dans ses yeux, elle cache un secret envieux. Chaque matin, un nouveau mystère. Mademoiselle vit sans frontières. Des murmures, des contes d'ombre. Elle marche comme un rêve sombre. Tous les jours, un chapitre écrit. Des légendes que le jour nie. Mademoiselle raconte ta saga. Les histoires que personne ne voit.